I was the only one who was clearly at fault for my own rape.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart Robbins. What if the people who raised you and cared for you also caused you pain and confusion? And what if when you grew up and looked to others for affection, suffering and love had become so conflated that you found yourself accepting the unacceptable again and again? When producer, actress, director, and activist Annalynne McCord was a teenager, she was raped by a trusted friend. Thinking that she was somehow at fault, she stayed silent about this painful event for years. What would you do if your silence about abuse or sexual assault was eating you alive? Would you succumb to the hopelessness and look for ways to end your life? Or would you find your voice and speak your truth for all the world to hear?
Love and fear aren't in the same place at the same time. And I think that that's been the biggest factor for removing shame.
Yeah.
Is bringing love into the room. And love is not the word that we think it is. Love is acceptance of what is. I accept my trauma. I accept my abuse. I accept my rapes. And I accept all of them because I've been able to save little girls around the world. I've been able to counsel thousands of young women. My life is what it's supposed to be.
This is the only one in the room. In September 2018, I found myself in an all-too-familiar position. Looking around the room at the other attendees at Brave Magic, a famed writer's retreat, I found myself in a sea of 600 people, and yet, once again, I was there all alone. I was the only Black woman in the room. After it was over, I wrote about my experience in the Huffington Post, and something surprising happened. Comments started flooding into my DM.
Dear Laura, I'm a married gay man in my 40s. I work in a hypermasculine industry where I encounter
I'm Craig. I'm a 40-year-old, white, forgetful Los Angelino. I spent over half of my life in a self-imposed isolation, too vain to even embrace filled with people.
My name is Dana, and I live in Charlottesville, Virginia, where the KKK and the alt-right have been rallying. I'm Jewish, and I'm part of a tight-knit community here.
These were comments from people from all races, ethnicities, creeds, and nationalities who were moved by my piece because they too had felt othered. In this podcast, you'll hear raw, vulnerable accounts from people who are, like most of us, just eager to connect. My goal is that this podcast will make you think twice before judging the person standing next to you at a party, or in the pickup line at school, or in a crowded subway car. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone. You're listening to The Only One in the Room, presented by Lipstick and Vinyl and executively produced by Christina Barcy. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to like and leave us a review of your thoughts on the show. And if you have an Only One in the Room story you'd like to share, you can DM us on Instagram at The Only One in the Room. Enjoy the show. Annalynne, are you a breakfast eater?
I'm not.
No?
I'm not unless I do have early mornings where I wake up at like 5 and then I eat breakfast like a normal person at 8 or 9.
Right.
But right away, if I wake up at 7 or 8, I can't eat until like almost lunch, like 11, yeah.
And so do you ever eat breakfast for lunch or do you just eat lunch?
I love a breakfast.
I figured you're from the South, so you probably like a big breakfast.
I do.
Or a good breakfast.
Yeah.
So like what would you eat typically?
If I can have the South food, it's grits mixed with my cheese eggs, which is actually better than it might sound.
That sounds delicious.
Bacon, not overcooked, please. And, ideally some kind of fruit so I feel good about myself.
Right. Love it. All right. We're kind of haphazard breakfast eaters.
I'm an intermittent faster, so I don't do breakfast much.
Yeah.
But I am from the South, too, so I enjoy
Yeah, I like the breakfast food. Yeah, for sure.
I think of fruit as dessert, actually.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, well, if it's mixed with sugar and topped with whipped cream.
Yeah, that is definitely desserty.
Yeah. All right. So, hi. I'm Laura Cathcart Robbins, and this is The Only One in the Room. But as you know, I'm never the only one in this room because my boyfriend, producer, and co-host, Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey. So our guest today is the beautiful and talented Annalynne McCord. Have you heard her TEDx talk?
I did, actually. I was very impressed. She was in front of the TED Talks audience, and she killed it.
Yeah, she did.
Mm-hmm.
I was expecting more of an average, like my success as an actress doesn't define me, but it was much more raw and honest than that. It's definitely worth the 20 minutes.
Absolutely. I actually watched it twice.
Ah, yeah. Well, I'll have to watch it again now. Can't have you one-upping me.
I know how you are.
All right, I'm going to introduce Miss Annalynne McCord so we can talk to her. Annalynne McCord is an award-winning actress, writer, director, producer, and activist. She's known for playing the vixen or the vamp, or roles of a darker nature. Don't vixen and vamp sound like they're from the 1930s? I love that. People first noticed her on Nip Tuck when she played Eden Lord in 2007. Other acting credits include 90210, Dallas, the new ones of both of those, right? Stalker, Lucifer the Pilot, ABC's Secrets and Lies, and she was the lead actress in the pop TV comedy Let's Get Physical. I noticed that Badger from Breaking Bad was in that.
Yes, he was.
Very exciting. I love him.
A huge fan of Badger.
I love him.
You have a new untitled project that you're working on. I'm going to let you talk about that in just a second, but just let me finish by saying that she is also the president of Together One Heart, an organization which empowers women and children victimized by human trafficking and sexualized violence. In 2009, she was awarded a U.S. congressional honor by Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro for her anti-trafficking work. She is not just a pretty face.
No, welcome, Annalynne. We're really glad to have you here.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here.
So tell us about that project that you're working on.
So we just wrapped. It's an untitled Nate Parker project. He's working on the title. It was a passion project for him, and it's about the issue that we're seeing constantly in the news with police shootings, specifically targeting African Americans, and the major issue we have in our very flawed system. And there was something really beautiful about the script when I read it, and it was that no one was being vilified. It obviously your heart immediately drops to the floor when you hear that a young boy is shot by a police officer and he was unarmed, and he was in the film you see that there's a dynamic with the father, and they've been basically just judged by the way they look in the car they're driving at the wrong time on the wrong side of the town that they don't belong in, quote unquote. It kind of, the way it unfolds is pretty incredible, and it definitely has an action film feel to it as well, but then it's very much a character-driven piece. And it was just a small role, but it was just such a profound piece, and I was excited to be a part of it. It was very interesting because once I did my research, I'd had an amazing 2-hour conversation with Nate, and excited to do the film.
And just because we were just talking about it, Nate Parker was the force behind Birth of a Nation, the remake of it.
Yes.
And there was a controversy around the film because of activities, or he was accused of something outside of that had actually happened years before, right? He was allegedly something happened years before.
Absolutely.
And he caught some heat for it as this film came out.
The film came out, I think it received the highest buyout at Sundance, like in the history of Sundance, like $17.5 million. All the eyes were on him. It was his directorial debut. Obviously, the nature of the film, it's, heavy to watch.
Yes.
And then the allegations that had been against him back in the 90s came up. So I've had this incredible conversation with him, and then I find this out, and I'm a survivor. I work with survivors of sex trafficking and sexualized violence, and I call my team. They're like, "We'll handle this. Don't worry. We'll just, we'll tell him you're working, you're busy." And I'm like, "No, that's not how I do things."
Yeah.
So I called him, and I said, "I want to have a conversation with you, and I want to hear your side of the story."
Good for you.
And it was really incredible. We spent 3 hours on the phone that time, and he told me, look, he said, I was accused of sexually assaulting this young woman who I had previously been sleeping with and continued to have sex with after the incident that I was accused of. I was acquitted on all accounts by an almost all-white jury in the 90s. in Pennsylvania, if that doesn't say a lot, I think that says a lot. It's unfortunate that it says a lot, but that was the case. It was a white woman. He was a black guy. It just didn't look good for him at that time. And he said he was given a deal. He was given a deal to walk with no jail time, probation only. He had no offenses other than that. Stand-up kid. And he said, I'd rather sit in jail than say that I did something that I did not do. I will go to trial, and I will prove that I'm innocent of this. Yeah. And that was what really spoke to me, that he was willing to, at that time in it's still horrible, but at that time specifically, he was willing to take the chance that he would sit in jail for 5 years, and he was acquitted, and I was like, well, I'm doing this film with you, and we'll face this together if it comes out, which I think, obviously, because of the work I do, it probably will. But let's do it together.
Well, I think that it says so much about it, because it's you, and we're going to get into this because of your Only One story, which ties directly into this, that you were able to, open-minded enough to investigate it and to speak with him directly and receive his side of the story and hear it and then make your own decision, not based on bias, not based on past trauma, but based on what your instinct or intuition told you about where he was and go forward. Yeah. That says a lot. All right. Could you tell us a little bit about the discipline you received growing up from your parents and how that impacted you?
Absolutely. I believe that shame is a belief system.
Yes.
Right? Santa Claus is very real right up until he's not. Same thing with shame. Shame is very real right up until it isn't. I no longer believe in Santa Claus, and I no longer believe in shame.
Okay.
But I did experience a lot of shame throughout my life until I was able to take on that new belief system, and it began very early. And I experienced what everyone, once again, talking about normalizing things. We've normalized racism. We've normalized marginalization of certain minorities of individuals like me who grew up in a trailer park and were impoverished and lived on food stamps. And, we were poor kids. And then we've also normalized literally, the American Psychology Association calls it legalized violence towards children. We have normalized violence towards children by calling it spanking. We think that you can hit a child because they've been bad and that's perfectly okay. And so my experience was extreme, but I stand by the fact that, if you are late to the podcast, Laura, and Scott's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to have to teach her a lesson. I'm going to have to hit her.
Yeah.
Everybody will be like, I don't know what you feel about that, Scott, but
not going to happen.
Not going to happen, right? We all agree that you can't hit your wife, or you can't hit your girlfriend, or you can't hit someone else. But two grown adults can hit a child, and we're okay with it. Yeah. Like we write it off. So we also have very good parents who say, this is your special place. Nobody touches here. Nobody does anything bad here. But then mommy and daddy are allowed to touch places that are special that aren't supposed to be touched by anybody. All of these things I experienced severe with boards and, belts and things, sticks and things like that. And it played into my sexuality later. Yeah. It became something that was a fetish that, to be honest, to this day, it's still something that when I have some time with my Annalynne self, taking care of mama over here, I still think about those things. I now no longer subscribe to the shame around it, but I am mortified that this is something that we still normalize and make okay. And it was it told me, and my love language is physical touch, and it told me that if you hug me, you love me, right? So if you hit me, you hate me. It told me my parents hate me. It told me that I didn't have skin boundaries, right? So people who love me are allowed to hurt my body. And that's something that children experience the world through their bodies until our higher adult brains are developed, right? So my body was constantly being harmed by people who, quote unquote, loved me. Yeah. And why, my mother, she experienced extreme physical abuse as discipline. And this was a generational thing going on and on and on. at a certain point, it has to stop. And my mom and I have had so many conversations since then. And she realizes, she's like, when you put it like this, it's like I never thought of it. I just did what was done to me. And the Bible says it. And it's like, it's suddenly a book that is written however many thousands of years ago. Like, the Bible also enslaves people. It also tells women to obey their husbands, which I have always had a problem with. That's another podcast.
Yeah, it is.
So it was very damaging to me as a person, as a spirit, energy, soul, consciousness, as a child who is a trusting, open, pure, beautiful bundle of love, who looks up at these two people with nothing but just openness and is just abused. It's abuse, and that's what it is. And whether or not the intent behind it is that, it doesn't matter. If you hit someone, it is an assault on their person, and it is especially atrocious to me if that is a small person.
Yeah.
So...
Well, just, with you, I can feel it in my body while you're talking about it. I can feel the intense energy around that. When you said the comparison of Scott hitting me, and that would never be okay, to adults hurting a child, and that conflation of pain and pleasure, of love and hate, right? And if they're intermingled, very difficult to separate out, especially for a child and maybe for the adults also who are inflicting it. And I know that kind of confusion can sexualize children, which, is sometimes children are sexual anyway, but sexualizing a child is different than them just being sexual. Yeah. And when they're sexualized earlier, then there are just other things in front of them that may not be in front of everybody else. It doesn't necessarily mean good or bad.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you have the cognizance that this was abuse, or were you thinking that it was normal?
I didn't have the awareness for most, because everyone around us was doing it, and the parents would like laugh about it or like make jokes about it, and it was quite humiliating. But I remember watching PBS, Public Broadcasting Network, there was a PSA that had been made. It said that if you had bruises on your body for more than 24 hours, then that meant you were experiencing domestic abuse. And I remember a time when my father had taken us to, the irony, to go and visit the sick, the older people in a nursing home. And here we are doing these good things. And I'm, hiding this feeling that now, according to this PSA, I technically am one of those victims of abuse. And my dad had us wearing really long, shorts and dresses and stuff. And nothing was allowed to be, no normal kid outfits. We looked weird.
You're saying siblings?
I have two siblings,
okay.
Yes.
They're boys, girls?
Two girls. I'm the middle, and older sister and younger sister. So everybody was inside the room, I remember, at one moment. And I had this little shorts set that the shirt matched the shorts. So I was allowed to wear it, even though the shorts were shorter than they were technically supposed to be. And I had this really big bruise on my thigh. And I remember that when I would see the nurses coming, I would pull my pants up high so that they could see the bruise. But by the time they had gotten close enough to see it, I would have shifted it back down because I didn't know what was going to happen to my parents. I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And this is something that I talk about a lot with domestic abuse victims, because those people who hurt you and terrify you also take you to the beach and you play in the sand and you go on nice, fun drives with them. And it is the most confusing thing in the whole world.
Absolutely. And adults experience that, especially adult women, when they are in relationships with abusers, because it is what's going to happen to the father of my children, who's going to take care of us. He brings in the money. He's the breadwinner. What will I like? Will I be able to survive without him? And there's that locking in to an acceptance of that this must be accepted in order to have these things which you think you need to survive, or one thinks one needs to survive.
And that's the same for psychological abuse victims, which is, and those are men and women.
Yes.
A man who's afraid that his kids are going to be taken away from him. A woman who's fearing there's financial abuse where someone holds the finances over someone's head. And those are even harder because those are scars on the inside. Those are wounds on the inside that you can't show a nurse walking by.
Right.
Right. I would come to really find out I don't believe that there are sexual kids anymore. I think that kids who experience, or people who experience children as a sexual, having a sexual energy, it might be that something's happened to them and it's frozen, that they don't remember it.
Yeah.
Because I always referred to myself as a very sexual child, and it actually is the antithesis of a child to be sexual.
Yeah. Yeah.
You only do what you know. And children come here as blank slates, and then they mimic what they know and what they've been shown. Yeah. So someone showed something to those children that have a sexual energy because they don't have that energy.
Right.
They don't get frustrated if mommy and daddy have never been frustrated. They cry as a form of conversation. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I do that too to this day. So I know I get hangry.
Right.
But I think there is something that we don't realize. Nothing comes from nowhere. Yeah. So that means something has to come from somewhere. And I did not believe that up until last year. I didn't believe that for a very long time.
And this is so interesting. I could talk about this with you all day, seriously, but I want us to move on because I'm going to get stuck in talking about this if we don't.
So will I.
We're going to take just a quick break to tell you about a cool new product that Scott and I discovered. And we'll get back to our guest's amazing Only One story in just a minute. I am really excited about this new sponsor, Modern Fertility.
I saw that last night at dinner. You were very excited.
Yeah, so we had a few women at the table. They ranged from age 20 to in their 40s. And they were all at different stages of, either deciding if they wanted kids, when they wanted kids, if they wanted kids. But this is something that all of them could use.
Yeah, it was definitely the most exciting conversation of the evening at the table.
So I told them about how easy the online quiz was that I took. You go and you punch in a few things, and then it comes out with this result that gives you a plan for your family and when you need to have kids. And, the hormone test is something that you do at home, where usually, you go to a doctor for a hormone test, and it's a wait.
They're upwards of $1,500. This one's $159.
Right. You do the test at home, you send it in, and you have this personal dashboard that you have a fertility expert that interacts with you. The test can tell you if you have more or less eggs than average, what you can expect from IVF or egg freezing, how your hormone levels relate to PCOS, which 1 in 10 women have, and just about your general hormone health, which is a window into your broader health.
Oh, it's taking planning to a whole new level.
It really is. So here's the deal. It's Modern Fertility. You're going to go on to their website, modernfertility.com. You're going to take their quiz. It's convenient because they ship the kit to your home. You get physician-reviewed results in just a few days. It's cost-efficient, like you said, hun. At $159, Modern Fertility gives you access to all the information you need to plan ahead. You can use FSA or HSA, and if you have a real job, you know what those two things are. You get a personal fertility team. You can connect with a fertility nurse, join their weekly webinar, which they call an egginar. I thought that was pretty cute. Participate in their active online community with women just like you. So it's like this big, massive text chain with women who are exactly where you are. And then you get peace of mind because Modern Fertility gives you the knowledge and information you need to make the best decision. And the quality of the tests are all conducted in CLIA certified labs. Modern Fertility's team of physicians, clinical advisors lead some of the nation's top fertility clinics. You visit modernfertility.com/theonlyone, take their fertility quiz, get $20 off your Modern Fertility test.
Take the fertility quiz and get $20 off your first kit at modernfertility.com/theonlyone.
It's really cool to be able to do this at home for this really low cost and all of this privacy. And you can take control of your family planning needs. So, hun, I was having lunch with a friend the other day.
Who?
That's not important to the story. But we were having lunch, and after she finishes eating, she pulls out this fantastic little factory-sealed packet of supplements.
Was it Lila?
Hun, anyway, I was totally obsessed with that packet. It was obvious that it wasn't some generic packet. It was something I've never seen in a store.
Oh, that sounds like Nicole.
Honey, the supplements. All I had was this little ghetto Ziploc bag of vitamins. I had total supplement envy. Suddenly, I knew I couldn't rest until I had personalized supplements like hers. And now I know where to get them.
Why didn't you just ask her where she got hers?
Oh, she was having a moment, very teary. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that must be Allison.
Honey, you better hope she's not listening. But yeah, it was Allison. Anyway, hon, you know how last month we were all, okay, winter's over. It's time to get serious about getting healthy again. And then we signed up for Care Of? That's it. They're the ones that have the fancy packets and so much more.
Oh, yeah. Care Of is great. They make it easy to get vitamins, protein powders, and more. Personalized just for you, and they deliver everything straight to your door.
Right? And wasn't their online quiz so easy?
It was actually kind of fun.
I thought so, too.
You know how short my attention span is, so I liked that it was super quick, and the illustrations just made it that much more simple. I didn't have to do much thinking, and the choices were laid out like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it only took me 5 minutes, and they gave me my own personal, scientifically backed recommendations for vitamins and protein powders.
Well, for me, self-care needs to be easy and convenient, and that's what I like about Care Of. They make it simple.
Care Of delivers daily vitamins and supplement packs along with protein and more, all customized to your recommendations. So you're only taking what you really need. Your individualized Care Of subscription box gets sent right to your door every month with personalized daily packs. Great for a busy on-the-go lifestyle. And, hun, they even say your name on them. Allison's didn't have her name on hers. She's going to be so jealous.
Poor Allison.
You can also track your progress with the Care Of app and earn rewards when you remember to take your vitamins. You know how much I love a good reward. So, if you want to join me in making Allison jealous and be at your healthiest this summer, go online right now, and guess what? You can get 25% off your first Care Of order. Go to takecareof.com and enter the only 125.
You mean if anyone goes online right now, they can get 25% off their first Care Of order? All they have to do is go to takecareof.com and enter the only 125?
That's right, honey. And I also think we just got to say here that supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Good point, honey. So I hope you're already logged on to Care Of and are taking the quiz right now. You can thank us when you get all your goodies.
I'm texting Allison right now to see if she wants to get together again. Wait till she sees my supplement packs with my name on them.
Honey.
What? I want you to talk to us about the rape. But before you do, I just wanted you to touch on how your arrogance saved you, because I think that's another important piece of this.
It is. Victims of, or I like to say those victimized, because I wasn't a victim. I was a survivor, and anyone who got out alive is as well. I was victimized by abuses, but those who are victimized tend to go one of two ways, right? They push back, or they internalize and go in. And sometimes it tends to be a split. The pushing back is a defense mechanism to protect, right? Yeah. Go on the offense. The best defense is a good offense. I like football, so I know that. And for me, the best defense was a good offense, and my offense was my arrogance. I thought I was above everyone in my town, everyone in my house, anyone who didn't see this, pipe dream that I had to be an actress as something totally doable, which I thought it was. I just didn't have time for.
And you were in Georgia, having grown up in a trailer park, kind of cut off from any kind of access to a career.
Absolutely.
Or a path to a career, right?
I was homeschooled my entire education.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any experience of really the outside world at all. It was a very confined, sheltered upbringing. Yeah. I didn't have any kind of means. I had no connections. They say it's not what you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. I didn't know anybody. It was a very bleak outlook. So my arrogance was a little unfounded, but
intuitive.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll take that. And it also goes to show how much if you fake it till you make it, you might just make it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. Scott and I are both in recovery. where I'm almost 11 years sober. And
congratulations.
He's 10. Thank you.
Amazing.
But one of the things that we look at is what they call character defects, and I rename them survival skills because they're the things that saved my life growing up. And, you know, I just love that arrogance was something that saved your life and allowed you to get from that point to, you know, where you are now, which is still on your path, right?
Yes, it doesn't serve me as well now, I'll say.
That's the other thing we look at, too.
I'm still learning that.
Yes.
People don't like arrogance when you don't need it.
It can be tempered, though, but it can still get you through. I have a son who's really severely dyslexic, who's in London right now doing a stage in an amazing restaurant because he is the most confident kid I know.
That's amazing.
And, you know, everything that he was told, which was a no or another way, he's like, no, this is the way. This is how it's going to be. Yeah. And he's gotten himself everywhere he's gone because he has
He's an overcomer.
Yes, he is.
And so that confidence does. I mean, I would say that my arrogance, confidence, all of the above was probably stemmed a lot from the fact that things that happened to me at one point when I was like 6 years old, I almost died as a result of something that, like, abuses that were happening. And you do develop a sense of, what are you going to do?
Right.
Wait, come at me. Right? Come at me, bro.
I survived it, so maybe.
Yeah, I mean.
All right. So thank you for that, because I really like that about your TEDx talk. And again, if you haven't listened to her TEDx talk, you should check it out because it's really empowering for any gender or non-gender specific person.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the rape. So this was your best friend.
So I was 19 years old. I had moved here from New York to pursue my dreams. I studied acting in New York, left home at 15 from Georgia, studied acting in New York for a few years, moved out here when I was 18.
To Los Angeles.
Yeah. And then I had a friend group from a restaurant I was like hostessing at, and thankfully I had gone on to get some acting roles and be able to pay my rent with my acting, which I was very proud of. But I had maintained that friend group because I really didn't know anyone except those people. And one of the individuals in that friend group was someone that I gotten really, I just thought that he was a really sensitive artist. We had long, deep conversations. We gotten close in a friendship way. And I had a boyfriend. It wasn't, to me, there was no, relationship dynamic.
Right.
He was always picking bad girls, and like we'd talk about that, and he was my friend. And one night he called me and said that his roommate was throwing a big party and he had a really early morning appointment, 8 a.m. the next day, that was like could be a life changer for his dreams. And I'm the first one to be your number one fan as your friend. I love hard, so when I'm your friend, I will go to the ends of the earth for you. And I said, come here, you can sleep in my bed. I'll sleep on the couch. I had towels out for him to shower, and, everything was laid out, ready.
You gave him your bed?
I gave him my bed.
You are nice.
I'm very nice. Yeah. In the defense of the conversation, the sofas I purchased were pretty tiny. They were at IKEA. They looked good in the showroom at IKEA, but when I got them home, they were good for a 5'7" girl, but maybe not for a guy.
Okay.
But my boyfriend was out of town, and nothing that I would have obviously hidden from him. He knew this guy, and it just was a friend doing something for a friend.
Right.
If it had been a woman, no one would have thought twice about it. You
right.
know. And he was extremely nervous, and he asked me to come and talk to him just like about what was going on so he could maybe talk down his nerves. And I'm someone who, my little system shuts down when it's been awake too long. I'm like, go, narcoleptic.
Oh my God, Scott's just like that. It's
really
annoying for those of us who aren't like that, by the way.
I've fallen asleep my friends will tell you, I've fallen asleep during a sentence, woken back up, continued the sentence 15 minutes later.
I can't do that. I'm done. Once
You're
I'm
out. Yeah.
Check in the morning.
But yeah, people do. I'm like, don't wake me up if I wake up. I'm up. So
yeah.
But I was down for the count, and I had fallen asleep during the, that situation. I was kind of like, not even, I was sort of still sitting up. But when I woke up, I was being molested. I was being raped.
Yeah.
Not even, he was inside me. And My entire body went on lockdown. I had no access to my cognition. I had no access to my breath. I had no access to mobility, my movement. There was nothing that I could do. And I came to find out with my nerd research that my dorsal vagal had shut my entire system down. It's an ancient part of the brain that reptiles tend to use where they play dead. And my body decided, you're going to die if this continues happening and you do anything to react. So stay as still as possible. Actually, we're going to do that for you. And I was frozen in time. So the only thing that when my thoughts came back was just stay asleep, stay asleep, stay asleep, stay asleep. Those were the thoughts clouding my brain. Yeah. And it continued, and then a little bit of pragmatic energy started to return cognitively, and all of a sudden I was thinking, could I get an STD? Could I get pregnant?
You're getting scared.
I was getting scared, and I was starting to get the awareness of my cognition back, and the final thing that came to me was, is this cheating? And that, I didn't have a voice for myself, but I would never do something to. This is the first boyfriend, love of my life, wonderful. I met him when I was 16. Like, he was, I would never do that. So when I thought about Nate, all of a sudden everything stopped. And I was like, my voice came back. Yeah. And I said, please stop. I have a boyfriend. Please stop.
This is in the middle of it.
This is in the middle of it. It's still been going on during this entire
this
inner
whole
dialogue. And he stopped. So then, of course, you definitely don't think it's right because I said stop and he stopped. So obviously that was my fault. And he went in the bathroom and finished himself off. And I didn't move. I didn't even move to put my pants back on.
Were you on your bed or were you on the sofa?
I was on my bed.
Okay. So you had gone in with him to calm him down.
To talk to him. Yeah. And I remember how frozen I was. Everything was frozen. And it wasn't until the lights started to come in, and I was wide awake, obviously, the rest of the night. When the lights started to come in through the window, I stealthily crept out of my own bed. I even wrote a note, was like, I had a last minute appointment come up at 6 a.m. It doesn't even make sense. There's no logic at all. All I wanted was this to never have happened and for everything to just go away. And I went and I sat on I pulled my car out and I sat on the side street of my street so that I could see his car, so that I would know when he had left, so that I didn't obviously run into him. Yeah. And that was it. I pretended like nothing happened, and 10 months later was the first time that I would even acknowledge that it had occurred. Wow. And it was, I just, just disassociated.
Yeah. Not that this excuses anything, but was he high or was he drunk or was he...
I think he had a couple beers. Okay. He was known to drink quite a bit. Yeah. And I think that he had a beer or two to calm himself down before he got to my place, which, why was he driving? But there's that. But
why was he raping?
Well, yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I would go on to talk a lot about this because this was around the time when, a lot of the sexual assaults on campuses were happening, college campuses. And I moved out at 15. I was dancing on tables and parties in New York City at, with the most scantily clad outfits I could find because I grew up conservative. So obviously I was like, woohoo, no panties. Yeah, yeah. And I like to talk about the fact that I was not raped. Right. And all these scenarios where I should have been raped according to society and according to culture, I was raped in not very cute pajamas in my own home by a friend. Yeah. And that was something that, to me, changed the dialogue. And I felt like I needed, not till 10 years later, but when I did find my voice, I felt like I needed to highlight that it's all wrong. And I found the statistics, and it's 75 to 80% are victimized by people they know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I told you when you and I talked on the phone that I had a really similar experience, and I wrote about it for the first time, and nobody who knew me knew that this happened. And I'm, quite a bit older than you. I'm going to be 55 in August.
Wow.
And
Black don't cry.
Okay.
Okay, I would say 43, 44.
Oh, thank you. Well, and that was around the time that I started talking about this, but it happened in my 20s, and I had gone over to a guy's house that I was dating and taken a nap in the middle of the day, and I woke up. I'm assuming it was him, and I don't know because there were several guys in the living room of this house.
Oh, wow.
He was inside of me, and I was face down in the pillow. And then when he finished, he got up and walked out into the living room, and I didn't get to get a good look at him.
Yeah.
And I just shut down and I left. I said goodbye to him.
Yeah.
I left the apartment and drove home, and I had a roommate. She was my best friend at the time. Didn't discuss it.
Yeah.
I think I was so afraid of the shame that I might feel if I brought it up that I just chose not to, and to compartmentalize that and just like, that's something I'll never talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe it didn't even really happen if I don't talk about it, so I can
that was
move
my
on.
sentiments. Was that if he doesn't say anything and I don't say anything, this never happened.
And for me, I know that there were several factors that led to alcoholic drinking and using for me. But I know now that one of the things was suppressing things like that.
Yep.
And then sealing it with that shame,
Yep.
right? So I'm not going to talk about it, but there's like this layer of shame on top of it.
Yeah.
Did you have any experience? Did you experience any the impact of not talking about it before you talked about it 10 years later? And
Oh, absolutely. The way that I got my power back from the abuses I experienced was to just have fuck buddies for 2 years standing.
Yeah.
Don't get close to me. Don't get intimate with me. Sex is an act.
Yeah.
And it was the only time when my brain shut down. And now I know my brain was disassociating, which is, I thought I was on this high and it was euphoric and I needed more of it every time I did it. And that was my vice of choice.
Yeah.
And what was so bad about that for my soul and my spirit and my body was that it was something that people would pat me on the back, and I was a chick, so it was like, "Oh my God, you're so funny." She's like a dude,
right,
and it was. I was getting attention for, like I was getting laughs.
You were getting loaded.
I was, I was just like hyped on it, and it would just drive my need even more. And this, if it wasn't happening, if I felt sexually rejected, I'd go into cutting myself. I would go into a tailspin. And to me, I've been to AA just to kind of experience the steps and hear about the way you can, cope with these types of things.
Yeah.
And that was something that I heard in the stories there. I just kind of sat and listened, and I realized, wow, that's exactly how they describe their experiences.
Right.
Just going into a tailspin from something. And what it is, it's frozen energy trapped in our bodies, right? And we can't handle that much. We get to a red line.
Yes.
And we freeze it all up and we shut it all down. And if you find someone safe, I was just talking to you before the podcast that I am newly in a little relationship that is probably the most healthy relationship I've ever been in my life with a man. And I felt safe with him, so immediately I started kicking him in the face emotionally. And that's what happens in the animal kingdom, right? The gazelle gets almost killed by the lion. It freezes up, plays dead, just like my experience.
Yeah.
The lion doesn't eat the gazelle right away. That animal, the moment it is safe, its entire system will unfreeze. It wakes up from the moment that it froze, kicking and fighting. Yeah. And you can see it in the wild on Nat Geo. Like, you can literally see the animal running away.
I've seen that.
Kicking out, right? We talked about this. That's what
it's like they have an adrenaline spike in them all of a sudden.
Yes,
and
they can come back, but they're from the moment they froze is the moment they return to.
Yeah.
And so it's almost, if you picture yourself, and I did this when I was working through a lot of my trauma and therapy, I imagined myself in a block of ice. And I was literally mid-fight. You can't see this on the podcast, but I'm like raising my arms and freezing in space. And we find a good man and we feel safe, or a good woman, we feel safe, and we just unfreeze at that moment, and they're the ones who get the brunt of it.
Right.
And
they get the kick.
They get the kick right in the face.
Yeah.
And it might not be one kick.
Right.
But
Right.
I pushed and pushed away at first, but love,
Yeah.
love and fear aren't in the same place at the same time. And my fear started to melt with all of that love. And I think that that's been the biggest factor for removing shame.
Yeah.
Is bringing love into the room. And love is not the word that we think it is. Love is acceptance of what is. I accept my trauma. I accept my abuse. I accept my rapes because there were multiple now that I remember. And I accept all of them because I've been able to save little girls around the world. I've been able to counsel thousands of young women. I'm on this podcast with you and your beautiful energy. Like my life is what it's supposed to be.
I love all of that. I'm really excited about you in this new relationship and to be whole and healthy in a relationship. But before we get to your organization, because that's where I want to lead this, I know there was a breakthrough moment for you, and you talked about cutting just briefly.
Yes.
Can you explain what that is for people who don't know?
Yeah, so self-harming comes in a lot of different ways, obviously. And when you, like me, are so disassociative, people do it for different reasons. They self-harm to feel, or they self-harm to release a lot of times.
Yeah.
So for me, I felt nothing. The abuses that I subjected myself to sexually were because I didn't feel.
Yeah.
Like I had to keep upping the ante because it was like, are you even doing anything? Which is so mean to the nice guys. But I was so disconnected from my body. And when things would get to this pressure cooker high and I couldn't understand what was going on because I really had no connector from my brain to my body, the only thing that I could do to try and have any kind of sense of myself inside of a body was to feel pain, and cutting my skin allowed me to feel, because as much as I could disassociate, when you opened a wound with a knife, it hurts. It goes beyond the disassociation. And I would feel that, and then I'd be like, why am I doing this? That hurts. And I would go back and forth, but it would get to this pressure cooker place where my brain just couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
And it was, there were suicidal thoughts and attempts and all of these things, because the what's happening inside of us is that there's us. There's the consciousness behind, right? And then there's a body that can't take any more on.
Yeah. I love the pressure cooker.
The pressure cooker.
Analogy,
That's what it is. And I just couldn't take any more on. And I needed to feel something.
Yeah. And so feeling pain was better than feeling nothing.
Nothing,
And then you were able to still go to work. You were working this whole time. You were a working actress.
Yes.
You were known around town. You were kind of an it girl, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was.
I shouldn't say kind of an it girl. You were an it girl. But you were a working actress. You are a working actress, but you were already working in your 20s when this was all happening.
When this was all happening.
Yeah. So tell us about that. How did that juxtaposition look for you?
Oh, it was very interesting. It caused a lot of resentment towards my work and the industry, because I was smiling on a red carpet and everybody thought I had the life.
Yeah.
Everyone thought I was an it girl. And the thing about being an it girl is that you really don't have any problems to anybody else. And that meant that my problems were even more magnified for me because I was unseen. I was invisible. Once again, me underneath it all was invisible behind this smiling facade and these great pairs of shoes, which I'm not mad about. But that sent me into a place where, when I was actually being offered 90210, I had a whole I call it my young life crisis. I got my midlife crisis out of the way early. I wanted to quit acting and find something else to do. I didn't want to be in this town anymore. I couldn't keep the masks up. And that was what actually led me to, when I said yes to the show, they thought I was negotiating, which I learned a very good negotiating technique. Say no.
Yeah.
No was very powerful.
Play hard to get.
Play hard to get. I didn't.
But you weren't playing.
I was like, can you not take no for an answer?
Right.
Like, what is wrong with you people? But the third time they came back, and I had called my first acting partner, who's a survivor of so many things in her life, and she was involved with anti-human trafficking and had educated me on it, actually, when I was in drama school with her back when I was 17. Yeah. And I called her and I was like, I'm moving back to New York. I'm over this town, blah, 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 having my little bratty moment. And she was like, smacked me in the face over the phone. She's like, you are an idiot. She was
Take the
literally
job.
like, you have a platform.
Yes.
This is an incredible platform.
Yes.
She said, this issue of human trafficking is massive right now. No one knows about it. And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was how I got involved, because suddenly I had a higher purpose. I didn't know anything about this. I started reading and educating myself like a crazy person because I really needed anything that wasn't just this town for the sake of this town.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to working with the girls in Cambodia.
And so there's about that. Another thing about recovery is that in order to get well, we have to get out of self and be of service. That's our mandate.
100%.
But what I love about, from what I know about your experience in going there, was you thought you were going there to be of service.
Yes.
And you came back with another notion, right?
Yes. The really awesome thing about projecting all of your problems onto other people and thinking that you're going to save their life is that then you're smacked in the face with the truth.
Yes.
So I was smacked in the face with the truth. I was not the rescuer of these little girls. They saved my life.
Yeah.
They turned my world upside down because they had already found freedom. Their chains were taken off the day they were rescued, but their chains were taken off because they found love and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Those were the chains I still had. Those were the chains I had no idea how to find the key. And they loved me when I was unlovable. They made me worthy when I was unworthy. When I felt like invisible. My whole life I felt invisible, that no one really saw me.
Yeah.
They saw me.
What does your work with them look like? What do you?
I get a lot of hugs. I don't even
Yeah.
feel like, I still don't feel like I work. The work part is like dealing with humans. I'm like, give me your money. What do you want from me? I'll give it to you. Just give me your money. No, that side of it is the very the taxing part.
Yeah.
Being in Cambodia with the girls is the beautiful side of it. But when we're there, one of the really important things is love and validation, and talk about, issues with skin color
yes.
in Asia
Yes.
and Southeast Asia. The lighter your skin, the higher class you are.
Yes.
And if you have darker skin, it means you're in the sun a lot, so you have a low-class job.
There's a caste system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so my girls see these really light skin, lighter than, the Asians there. They're like, we're white. And we come over there and we're, touching them, which is like they're unlucky. You don't touch them. It can jump onto you. It can be contagious. And I'm sitting on the floor, which is I'm bigger than them and older than them, so I'm a higher level. So I'm supposed to sit in a chair, and they sit lower than me,
like at your feet or something.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm American. I don't believe in this shit. I'm sitting on the floor with my girls, and I will roll on the floor with them. And I remember a very profound moment, one of the second or third times, very early on, when one of the girls asked, why do these people come from the other side of the world to see us? What's so special about us?
Yeah.
And I was like, I would like to answer that question because you guys are our heroes. Yeah. How you can forgive a parent who sold you into sex slavery at 6 years old.
Yeah.
And then want to send money home and take care of the family for your honor. How you can hear your mother call you a whore at 6 years old and still want to be her daughter and love her and forgive her and be with her. I don't understand that. I come from the angry country where we're mad at nothing and everything. We're just mad all the time. And
forgiveness is weakness.
Forgiveness is weakness.
Yes.
And forgiveness, I learned, is accepting that the past can never be changed.
Yes. I love that.
Right?
I love that.
That's Dr. Dan Siegel, my favorite neuroscientist. Forgiveness is accepting that the past can never be changed, so giving up all hope on the past ever changing. And I gave up hope on the past changing. And that's what the girls taught me how to do.
And that's where you left your shame.
Yes.
Yes. Tell me the ages of the girls that you're helping.
We rescued a 13-month-old 2 years ago.
And these are young women, girls who have been sold into
sex trafficking or are vulnerable to. We work in prevention as well. So the 13-month-old had been raped by a man who had HIV/AIDS, we were able to, because of our presence in the country, get her within 72 hours, get her the medication required to possibly be able to not have that be a part of her life for the rest of her life. And all of her tests have come back negative for HIV.
Amazing.
She's our best meditator.
Mm-hmm.
She meditates every morning at 4 a.m. with the rest of us, and she's in it. And this is one of their healing. One of the things we do for healing, we do art therapy, we do yoga, we do meditation, we do breathing. So much of it is body somatic related, things that I would learn much later in life from them, because of them. And we have, young women, obviously. We work in the brothels trying to get the children of the young women who are forced into that life early on and end up there because they don't have any other means of, they're shamed in their culture. They don't have any other means to cover, expenses. And they end up doing that for the rest of their lives. And they have a dark sense of humor about it, and they'll make you laugh more than anyone you've ever met.
Yeah.
But
that's good for you because you have a dark sense of humor.
Because I have a dark sense of humor, too. So I fit right in.
Yeah.
But they want their kids out of that life, and we're able to come and give them a little hope for their children.
Beautiful. And then so you raise money here so that you can go and deliver that help there, and then you get your soul salved as you're doing it.
Together One Heart raises money in the U.S. I'm heading to Switzerland next week for Selena Foundation, who raises money in Switzerland, and then we have Project Futures in Australia. So we're around the world. We're raising awareness as well as funds.
Beautiful. You spoke in front of the UN, was that correct? And that is when you came forward about the rape. And can you just tell me in a couple minutes what that was like?
Yeah, so I had come forward with my story the year before. Okay. And I had written an expose in Cosmopolitan magazine.
Yes,
and
I read that.
Thank you. And as a result of that, I just talk about not being weak anymore. I believe that moment was so weak, and I just had an outpouring of love. And this happened to Me Too stories, and before Me Too was the movement. And then I was asked to speak at the UN to kick off International Women's Day, the International Women's March. Okay. And I remember preparing, and I don't write speeches because I have to talk from my heart. Otherwise I get all stilted and weird, even though I'm an actress and should be able to memorize lines and be good at it. But when it's me, I got to just be honest and open. And I wanted to say something about what we have to do to end this issue. And the key here is men. Men are the key. Yeah. And we are all standing there, thousands of us, ready to march in New York City for Women's Day. And I asked everybody to look around and look who's standing next to you. And if you see a man standing by your side, think about that. A man is walking on Women's Day, marching alongside you. Yeah. Not saying, hey, look at me, I'm here supporting you, look at what a good man I am. Yeah. Silently, as your guardian, your warrior, your lover, your friend. Ally. Yeah. Your ally, right? So I said, on Women's Day, as women and with our nurturing sensibilities, can we remember that we are actually human, that this is a men and women together fighting this. This is men educating other men. Hey, it doesn't make you a cool, tough man to do this. No. It makes you a coward. That's what you are. Men don't rape. Men don't abuse. Yeah. Men don't violate and traffic women. Yeah. Cowards do.
Amazing. And really similar with racism, specifically to Black people. Black people cannot change the dynamic in this country, the systemic dynamic. It has to be white people
100%.
That change it. Yes. So we need white allies in order to change how Black people are treated and viewed 100%. And held in this country.
100%. Yeah. We have to call each other out as white, as part of the white race. Like, we have to say, we've had a lot of fucking luck. Yeah. We've had a lot of doors open. I know that even as impoverished as I was growing up and the odds were against me, I still have white skin. Yeah. I still am a halfway decent to look at chick. There are doors that open for me that don't open for other people. Right. And as a result of that, yes, there is something an obligation that I have to stand beside my sisters and brothers of color and say, we're human. Let's stop this.
In the same way that you were saying that men need to stand beside women and do this. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So this is the part of the podcast called Dear Laura. We talked about this a little bit.
Yes.
These are people who have written to me where they have experiences of feeling othered, and I do try to respond to everybody that writes in. So with your help, I'm going to respond to this woman.
Okay.
And she says, Dear Laura, my name is Angie, and I'm a first-generation Egyptian living in Los Angeles. I find it extremely challenging to relate, let alone be in the same room as my family at times. They value this concept of being a, quote, good Egyptian family, unquote, and they refuse to discuss or deal with the reality that abuse and addiction has ravaged and torn us apart. I seem to be the only person in the room who even dares to address these topics. It's super alienating at times. I've even been accused of tarnishing our family name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew.
I know there's a lot in that one paragraph.
But they're all the same.
Yeah.
Everything that, no matter what we experience, it's all different colors and different shades and hues of the same exact issue.
Well, and she's talking about culture, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, you come from a culture that, saw discipline and abuse as the same thing for children, right?
Yeah.
And the Black culture has different things that are absolutely acceptable in Black culture and not acceptable in mainstream culture, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So she's coming from a cultural standpoint of the good Egyptian family, with air quotes around that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
My first response, and this is what I do now with everything that comes in my world, Eckhart Tolle is an author I love very much.
Yes.
He helped me out of a lot of my ego issues, as he calls them, but not in the sense of the word that we know it to be. And he said, suffering is suffering right up until it isn't, until you realize that it isn't, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a form of suffering, alienation, feeling alone, feeling targeted and accused and attacked. Yeah. And as a result of that, and as someone who's victimized by that, I send you my love and support. And I also ask you, for the longevity of your life, to ask yourself, what is this moment about? If I'm 95 years old on my deathbed one day, what did this moment change in my life? Why are you the only one? Who are you going to become because you see this and they don't? What is this preparing you for? What is this getting you ready? What battle are you going to fight that you're going to be strong enough to fight because you, like the caterpillar in the cocoon, grew your wings strong enough to burst out of that cocoon and become a butterfly? I
love that.
And that's, if we look at it like that, if I was in my time of being raped and all of these things that were happening to me, and I was going through it. Yes, if I could swoop in and rescue you from your family and kick them all out, and I would, because I'm a little bad bitch. But the truth is, if someone did that for me, I wouldn't have gone on to do the work that I do. There is something that you are supposed to do on this planet. That, to me, is the answer to that. And also ask whenever we turn it inside and we look inside of ourselves and we really validate the beauty that she sees this. How sad to believe what they believe.
Right.
How sad to be enslaved like they're enslaved with invisible chains around their brain. She's cracking through her invisible chains. And no, they're not supporting. And yes, that hurts because attachment figures in our world are so important. But she has someone down the road who her story is going to impact and possibly save their life.
Yes.
And that would be my response to that kind of turmoil, inner suffering.
And it reminds me, Scott and I read a meditation that's sent to us every morning. This man named Jeff Kober.
Send that to me.
Oh, I'll send it to you. It's so good.
Oh,
but
cool.
One of them is called Pain is Inevitable, Suffering is a Choice.
Hallelujah.
And it's really, and it goes on and it goes into depth and explains basically how to just realize that you have a choice. It doesn't tell you how to make the choice. But just to kind of extricate yourself from the mindset that this is it.
Yes.
And I heard that in what you said.
Yeah. While validating those days when you want to stamp your feet and say it's not fair. Because you know what?
Right.
It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair. And that's a valid feeling.
Allow that.
As long as you don't stay in that.
Yes.
Suffering is a choice.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, the change that mindset, like just chain to the idea if you can undo those chains, the shackles, and allow yourself those moments of humanness,
Yes.
then you can move forward instead of staying stuck.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we gave her something to work with.
I hope so.
What is next for you, Miss Annalynne?
Well,
Yes.
I am working on a project with my sister, which is a little outside the box. I am an angel investor for the first time.
Really?
I hope it goes well. I'll let you know. But my younger sister, designed a little hair accessory that I think I'll have to bring you a sample and see what you think. We all do those days when we need a little top knot and just just like pull it off my
throw
face.
It up.
Just throw it up. Well, my little sister is the least basic person on planet Earth, and she, everything is just bedazzled and dazzled out and, ruffles and tulle.
It's great.
But she wanted her top knot to be not basic. So she named her little company Not Basic, KNOT. And I'm investing in it. And we have some pretty incredible people coming on board. The former head of marketing and publicity for Audi and Oakley. He builds companies now, and he has come on board to kind of consult and front run her company, and I'm an investor in it, so I will let you know how that goes.
That's dope.
We're working on that right now.
Really cool. And then you have the project with Nate.
I'm sorry,
Nate Parker.
Nate Parker.
Yeah.
He did the movie about Nat Turner.
Yes.
Nate
Jinx.
Parker. Exactly. Jinx.
You owe me a Coke. You have that project that'll come out.
Yes.
Do you know when?
That'll probably come out next year. And I did a film called Wrongfully Accused, which they might change the name. It's for Lifetime. It'll come out in the fall.
Love Lifetime.
Love Lifetime.
Yes.
Just like fun, just guilty pleasure.
I thought they were going to
films.
die for a while there, and then they came back with it's just like they didn't change their brand. They just we're going to do what we do best.
Yes.
And it's so good.
Yes, it was
so good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
So we, guilty pleasure.
I'll be looking out for that.
Okay, cool.
And where can people find you on social media?
On social media, I'm on Instagram, the Annalynne McCord. Together One Heart is together, the number one heart on Instagram, and togetheroneheart.org. And then Facebook, same, the Annalynne McCord, and Twitter, I'm at I am Annalynne MCC, the first three letters of my last name. So.
Great. And I hope people do look up Together One Heart, see where they can donate, see how they can help.
Yes, we need it.
Because it's a really fabulous cause. I know that Scott's going to talk to you a little bit about it because his daughter is in Bali doing some similar work. And, she's not there right now, but she goes back and forth. Anyway, so thank you. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And stay tuned for our bonus after show, Scott Talks, coming up next.